Recording in progress.
Good? All right, I call to order the February 8th Public Works meeting. Can I get a roll call, please?
Chairman Weggie.
Here.
Alderwoman Tice. Here. Alderman Gould.
Here.
Alderman Erger.
Here.
All members are present.
All right, any changes to the agenda from anybody? Seeing none, we'll approve by acclamation. Any citizen comment?
By the way, we can't see the, I don't know,
Zoom meeting.
the Zoom meeting on this monitor here. I don't know
If it matters. We'll move in the reports of the committee chair. I do not have anything. Alderwoman Tice,
No report.
Alderman Gould,
no report.
Alderman Erger.
No report.
All right, we don't have a city administrator report tonight. Move in the department reports, Public Works. Dan?
Got a few miscellaneous updates here. So for Russell, Gershenson continues to do work along the north side of Russell. So if you notice, there's, two side streets that are closed, the intersecting streets of Lawndale and Hilldale, those are closed, but the other two are open. I drove by there before the meeting, so they still have some work left to do. It looks like Hilldale, a little bit of curb ramps to pour tomorrow. And then assuming that they get done with that, then the flip would be next week to close the other two side streets and open these two back up. I know there's been work done on the east side of the bridge there at Brentwood Boulevard. They're doing work near the coffee place, Exit 11. And things are going well, if the weather cooperates. I think we probably should finish up on Russell probably by the end of the month. It looks like 2-week look ahead. It's pretty favorable. And then over on Manchester Road, MoDOT still hasn't done any paver work, which I'm sure you're aware of. And then nobody's done any of the sign work either. It's my understanding that the electrician had received the signs to put for these mid-block pedestrian crossings, but I haven't seen any work. I actually walked a little bit of it today and sent an email just asking them, when do you think you'll be back out there? It's, 60 degrees and I don't see anything. And then some of the other stuff I looked at when I was out, just to get a better feel for it, there's a possible tripping hazard that was reported to us, and I had sent that to MoDOT. So it's, one of them is by 8121 Manchester, which is Reineke, the paint store. So the only thing I could figure out, it's a curb extension that kind of goes towards the slab of the sidewalk. And I thought maybe it's to protect, there's a retaining wall there. Other than that, I don't know what purpose it serves. At the very least, I thought maybe they'll paint it yellow or make it stand out, because if you're not paying close attention, it's a 6-inch curb that's kind of perpendicular to the slab. And then the other one is over by our shop at Cecilia, the northeast corner. There's a raised section. The best I can tell for that is it was raised on purpose because it's right next to an inlet. So they don't want people stepping on the inlet. They want you to stay within the little slot, so to speak. But again, that could be painted if MoDOT chooses to paint it. Worst case, if they wanted us to do it, I know it's their property, but along hydrants and different places that we've done. So.
Can I ask a question? So that weird little 6-inch curb that comes out.
Right.
That triangular portion from the sidewalk to the retaining wall to the, little 6-inch curb, who owns that?
I believe that's within the right-of-way that it's MoDOT's. I don't know why, instead of the curb, I would have made it more solid, like a bigger triangle.
Right.
If you were trying to protect the wall instead of just a piece of curb, because that can be sheared off.
Yeah. Because I mean, it seems to be, whether they put even a planter in there or something, just so there's a indicator, because it is a pretty, especially at night, there's.
Right, that's why I wasn't sure. I might go out after this, just curious, because I'm like, well, I could see it perfectly in the daylight, but if it's foggy, if it's dark, I don't know.
Yeah, it's people can trip on it pretty easily. If you're not narrowing in on the
Right.
sidewalk area, you're going to hit that.
Or in winter, if you have a lot of snow, I thought, well, if
Right.
it gets covered and you're just walking along, you'd have this
Exactly.
unevenness,
Yeah.
step on it and roll an ankle.
So I'd be curious to find out, like, what can be done, whether it's painting or even a larger planter in that corner, or something that would indicate a structure rather than just a, but, or can it be removed, I guess is the other question.
Yeah, I thought, or shorten, because it seems to stick out more than what's needed. You know, if you shorten it, you know, truncate it 6, 8 inches, maybe that's better.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and that was it for that one. Switching gears to the Litzinger bike awareness. Yeah, yeah, I know, right? Or dad joke, whichever. Yeah,
Engineers usually don't joke.
I know, right? Some do, I do. The
Too
bike
weird a
awareness, we put the Sharrows out today, so if you drive through there from high school, or actually from Brentwood Boulevard all the way out to McKnight, the only areas we didn't do are the areas that don't belong to us, which would be Rock Hill. So from like McKnight to Bremerton on that south side, if you're heading eastbound, we didn't do it. I might call them just to see if it's pretty simple to do, but I would do it only one time and then they'd have to maintain it, you know, but it would look more consistent. So there's, I think, 7 of them that we painted today. And then we hung up a new sign too. So it should be pretty well, you know, I guess the awareness should be there. You know, if you think that anything needs to be touched up or whatever, just let us know. Getting that one done will be pretty good. Missouri American Water, they haven't started Salem yet, but they still are on Joseph. I don't know if you ever go in that area, but it's pretty torn up, that block of Joseph. It looked like from today when I went out there, maybe 50% done. Just they're about mid-block, so I assume they have at least another week or so. I haven't heard back from them, but Salem's not even started, and I know they don't want to start Salem until they're more complete on Joseph. And in 2818 Breckenridge, that's Bowser House. We can't advertise the demolition yet because we're waiting on FEMA's approval. Once FEMA approves the project, then we can go and put dates and publish that. So that one's on pause. The street sweeper, we've looked at additional quotes, and I had included the attachment is the Dulevo 6000 model. Originally, I thought it was too expensive, but it's actually pretty close, and it's cheaper than some of the other models. So that one's a mechanical broom, but it's got like a robotic arm. Typical mechanical brooms don't. They can move in and out a little bit. And then we looked at regenerative air. That's what we had before. So it's about in that same price, you know, low 200s to middle 200s. And then hopefully if the FEMA money is approved, then we can proceed with a sweeper. I know that staff is looking at this particular one. They've got it in stock, and then we've looked at other ones. Just as soon as we hear back from Eric, then we'll try to get going on that so that we don't lose out on it. That's pretty much it.
So on the street sweeper, remind me, is this the one that you can do different attachments to it and kind of modify it, or is that a different one?
That's a different one, but I do want to get a trued up quote on that, because the one that had the different attachments, you could take off the hopper. It's a small hopper, but you could take it off and put a salt spreader
Right.
and use it as a truck as well. It had a high enough top speed. I thought, you know, maybe Parks would use it on the trail system. If, you know, if it's not being used as a sweeper and not being used for salt, you could take everything out and it's got a bed that works as a small truck. Like
Yeah, I mean,
side by side.
sometimes things that do multiple things don't do
One
any
thing
one
well.
thing well.
Yeah.
But so I obviously
The sweeper
defer
part
to
is
your
limited 'cause
judgment on
it's
that.
little. This one that we're looking at, this particular one I included here, this Dulevo, it's the biggest hopper I've seen. It's like 8 cubic yards. Most are only 2, 3, 4. So it would be emptied a lot less frequently, which would be kind of nice.
Right. And then on the American Water, did you have any conversations with them, or have you had any conversations with them, knowing that since the last time we met, there was another break on Mary Avenue, again, knowing that eventually that whole stretch is supposed to be replaced as well. I just, you know, curious on,
We have not, but I can, you know, call their engineering department, because they've got to have a list pretty soon of what they're going to do in 24. Usually they'll send it in the spring so that it's work that they're going to do summer through fall.
Yeah.
So this, Mary might have gone up in rank just because of the
because of
number
that break.
breaks.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thanks.
I'll call 'em.
Anyone else? Questions for Dan? All right, thanks, Dan. Moving the Parks and Rec, Eric?
Just a couple things for my report tonight. The first is Memorial Park Bridge Replacement Project. That is Still on track. Basically, as we kind of talked in the past, both bridges have been moved. Both bridges are currently being fabricated. We expect them to be delivered late February, early March, and then hopefully, a couple weeks after that to get them bedded down, and then the decking poured and in place. So the goal was always to have the bridges back up on April 1st when the parks officially open. Knowing that usually winter is a bad time now when it's 16, 70 degrees. Obviously, people are missing them, but we'll have them coming back up here pretty soon. And then secondarily is one of the things that we've been looking at for a while, honestly, is smoking in the parks. I was in the city of Clayton when Clayton passed that ordinance the first time. That was right after county had done it. Since then, Olivet, Webster, Wildwood have all passed similar legislation. So it's something we're obviously interested in doing. When I first got here, it was pretty clear that the alderman at that time didn't support it. So the question is, if you guys are interested, we could write the legislative. We'd look at marijuana too, since obviously that just got legalized. So we have to kind of deal with that anyway. And so we can kind of wrap it all together in one sort of set of ordinance or one set of legislation, if that's okay.
I would be supportive of it, and I also think with the legalization of marijuana that's probably something that necessarily should be going on in our parks.
Yeah, Jeff?
Is this, so how is this in some of the other municipalities in county that have done it? How is this enforced? Because it seems like if it's just a one-off or a few people here and there or whatever, it's not something that's easily enforced. But is this more for events and keeping things, when there's a massive amount of people, that keeping things kind of?
I mean, it is for
Civil.
everything. I mean, when we did it in Clayton, the big question was enforcement, right? You hope that people follow the rules of your city, so you're kind of hoping that they basically self-police themselves. I know that in other like county and like Clayton, places like that, they either have park rangers or they have police staff who are there, or even the park maintenance staff, or if they're all around. It's a very gentle, like, hey, maybe it's a reminder that there's no smoking allowed in the parks. Hopefully with the police department being in the parks more often, they'll help kind of spread the word too. So, and then the big thing is events, right? So the people are coming in from out of the community who may not know that, and so that we can start posting on signs, and things like that when we move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest concern that I have is really more the larger groupings of people and kind of having that issue is a problem. I mean, having somebody walking our trails and, as long as they're not causing damage to it seems like that they're outside. It's not a big deal. Yeah, I'm supportive of it in a sense of the larger groups of activities. I don't think that that's something that we necessarily need to have, and have had issues, I think, especially since the marijuana legislation is passed, and vaping and all of that. So, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll just say I support banning it in parks as well. Another concern too is fires potentially getting started as well from embers or cigarettes that are still lit. So that's my thoughts on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in favor as well. I think, if you're walking along Sycamore Path and smoking a cigar and nobody is around you, within eyesight, then yeah, you're probably going to get away with it, but that's not the problem. I heard a lot of complaints at Madden Fest of, people smoking around kids and things, and I think this would be an appropriate enforcement. It's probably going to be events, it's going to be, if there's a softball team that's playing and somebody's smoking in the dugout or something, probably nobody's going to see it, nobody's going to enforce it. But, I don't think you can do it all the time.
The other thing too, especially with the opening of the destination playground, is area where kids congregate. So especially around playgrounds, you want to make sure you try to keep that area a little bit cleaner. So I think that's another big area where we would see a lot of enforcement, because it does kind of impede some people from joining Great. We will start working on that and bring it back.
All right, thanks,
Uh,
Eric. Any questions for Eric? Or,
I have a couple more things,
Okay,
sorry.
sorry.
One was just, it was not on the report, but we're doing it today. So we're going to be getting out our tree pruning list. We're going to mail it out here hopefully tomorrow. We're looking about 150 trees in Ward 3, so it's going to be a decent size. And then we're working with Sophie to kind of posting too, to kind of let people know it's coming. So that next week, and then Urban Forester will start tagging all the trees. And lastly is a quick FEMA update. So as you know, FEMA continues to kind of roll on. It's, as always, the bane of my existence. My wife will actually put that FEMA did this on my gravestone. I've asked her to do that. So that will be done. So 19 months in, as of January 31st, FEMA finally obligated all the last projects. So they obligated Lee Wind Trail officially, so it's $1.3 million for that. Because it's over $1 million, it's considered a large project, so you have to do all the work first, and then you have to get it reimbursed afterwards. But the best thing is that means we can pull, Dan can kind of finish up that RFP for the design build for that last section. And that last section was the big section. So we can start working on that right away, which is great. They also obligated the category G, which is parks, $347,000. We actually got the federal, the 75%, which is a little bit over 260,000, deposited yesterday. So that's already come in, so that's great. Just a quick update. So to date, FEMA has approved $3.5 million for the damages done in the city of Brentwood during the July flooding. 75% will come from FEMA, which is 2.6 million, the state 356,000, which is when everything's done, and then the city's portion is that 15%, so the 534,000, which we've already spent on projects we've already done. So to date, we've collected about $350,000. Some of the problems are is a lot of our damage was big damage, and that's the part where we have to come in after fact. And again, Michelle's happy because then she has to do single audits for all those. So what that does not include is the appeal for Brentwood Bound. That's still in the appeal process, so hopefully we'll get a favorable decision on that. And then lastly is category Z, which is administration time. We can get up to 5% of our total cost based on the time that myself, Bola, other people put into handling FEMA. With a project this large, I don't think we'll get the full 5%, but we'll at least get something in addition to that. So that is kind of where we're at, which leads me into the alternate project. So we did submit the alternate projects. Those were, so the process is, as FEMA knows, FEMA loves their processes. So we submitted it to SEMA first. SEMA reviews it and then forwards it on to FEMA. Seems like a middleman step there, but that has been done. SEMA approved it and sent it forward. Then when FEMA will and then approve or deny, they will bundle everything, kind of like everything else, and then send it back to SEMA. So then SEMA can send us the letter of whether it's been approved or not. So I did ask this, there's a typical time frame, and there is no set time frame. So if I've gotten the thought of the 19 months, it took us to get this far, so I'm not expecting this to be a quick process, but I'm hoping it will be somewhat quick. As you may know, today is our deadline to get everything done, so it's going to be difficult to get that done. We have submitted a deadline extension request. Those have been approved. So we got through August 8th, kind of as a first one. SEMA was very helpful with that and has been very helpful through this whole process. So if we go a little bit longer, I think I can push SEMA to give us another 6 months if we need to. I'd rather not. I'd rather be done by August 8th and just be done with FEMA. But if we have to, we can go a little bit further. So that is my update for tonight.
Any questions for Eric? Okay, thanks, Eric. Development.
Evening. So in your packets, I included the January report. For January of 2024, we had a total of 150 building permits that were issued. 542 inspections. Under code enforcement, there were 62 cases with a total of 106 inspections. Planning and Zoning Commission met on January 31st to discuss the site plan and conditional use permit amendment for Chick-fil-A. That will go back on the February 14th meeting, which I anticipate would have a public hearing at the Board of Aldermen on March 4th. We are also looking at the Planning and Zoning Commission next week at a couple of text amendments. The state legislature made regulations on home occupations, so we need to update our ordinance. That will also require going to the Ways and Means to, for the business license for home occupation changes. We can no longer charge a fee for business home occupations, so we will have to remove those. Board of Adjustment is scheduled for February 20th.
Could I ask a question
Oh,
about
yeah.
that? So is that how much revenue does that loss would that be for the city?
I'll have to pull those numbers, but it's not a lot.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
home
fine.
occupation.
You don't need to, I just was curious how many or that was an expensive permit.
I could take a look at it, and as part of my staff report and get back to y'all.
Thank you.
Board of Adjustment is scheduled for February 22nd for a variance request at 9021 Pine Avenue. The February 15th Architectural Review Board has been canceled. We did not receive an application for that meeting, but we are anticipating applications for the March 21st meeting.
All right. Any other questions? I'll say the 542 inspections in building, that's impressive. That's like 27 a day. Lot. So looks
Yeah,
like
we're
everything's
very
humming right along.
busy.
Yeah, that's great. All right, thanks, Whitney. Okay, I think the last thing is SUSCOM. I think we actually
Yeah, a couple quick things for the Sustainability Commission. The first is just an update on the Washington University Reset Project. So the University, WashU basically has a class that looks at solar opportunities within cities, and so they wanted to use the city of Brentwood as their template for this year. They did it the year before with the city of Clayton, and they put out a really nice sort of presentation. And so in December, we went with Mayor Dimmitt, Alderman Weggie, Andy Burkemper, and then Bridget Berglund all attended the presentation. And what they did really talked about a couple things. Is they talked a little bit about the Inflation Reduction Act and possibilities of funding, incentives that might be available. They showed a lot of municipal solar opportunities where they thought the best locations would be for solar throughout the city. They even looked at community-wide solar, whether it's privately owned, which was residential and commercial, and kind of showed what those would be and then the payback on those sorts of things. And then, a lot of the data behind that, which is really nice. And then lastly, one of the things they talked about was SolSmart, which is a Department of Energy initiative that promotes solar readiness in cities. And this is kind of basically a framework to help really streamline everything to make solar more easily accessible for residents and everyone else. So it's one thing that we talked in the Sustainability Commission. We think it's a good idea. They actually helped us. The class basically set out the framework of how you could get to bronze. And if you get to bronze, there's only a few more things you have to do to get to silver. And so what we're going to do is start working on trying to look at that SolSmart designation. I think it's been adopted by 508 local governments in 43 states. The city of Clayton is already bronze. They did that as part of the project they did with WashU the year before, kind of the same thing we're looking at. And that's, of course, why we wanted to push the silver, but they are looking at silver as well, so we'll have to go to platinum. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at with that first one. And as we get more information, we'll bring that back to both Sustainability Commission and the Public Works Committee for further discussion.
If I may, Eric, one other thing, and I mean, I really think going after the SolSmart, it's more just a framework to make sure you have the right information on the website. And do we have any zones in Brentwood where you can't use solar? I don't think we do, but verifying that. So it's a first step. One other thing that came out of WashU, just for awareness coming down, is that there's basically a module that has been developed for permitting of solar. So it's, installers are putting in the right information, and it basically automates the permitting of it, because it's no different if you're in Brentwood or somewhere else. And I think we'll take that up at SUSCOM at some point, but I think that might be a potential recommendation that comes as well, because that would reduce the burden on Whitney's staff to, review those, because it's, it should be straightforward and they put in all the right information. So I'm really excited, but I thought that was a great opportunity that we got, and that really came out of us joining the Midwest Climate Commission, MCC, whatever that stands for. So that we were hooked up with this opportunity, so it was great.
And then the other thing the Sustainability Commission talked about was No Mo April, based on the conversation we had last month at the Public Works Committee. And to give a very brief conversation of the long conversation we had is the idea of the no mow. I think the danger that you saw in all the stuff is basically if you let it grow and then you just cut it down all at once. If you slowly bring it down, that's a little bit better. But the idea of kind of taking it all down at once is what has been found to be detrimental to what No Mo April is supposed to be. And really the conversation at the Sustainability Commission is, hey, any discussion about pollinator health, especially during this season, is a good discussion. We were fortunate to have Michelle at the meeting, and so Michelle kind of helped us talk through some things, especially about communication and what we can do and moving forward. So in that sort of sense, and even Andy reached out to Jean Ponce at Missouri Botanical Garden too to get her thoughts. So with all that being said, I think you've already seen that Whitney's bringing a Lomo April ordinance forward tonight for consideration. So I think they, while NOMO or LOMO, I think everyone feels like it's a good idea. And then it's really kind of contingent on, I'm now going to say Michelle, since she offered it up, to really make sure to drive home the benefits to the community and really start the conversation. And so we're all really excited about it. So if it gets approved tonight, you'll start seeing us work moving forward on some of that text and communication outreach and signage and things like that. And then one more small thing, again, which I did not put on my report, but as I was looking at everything, we've been working with East-West Gateway on the Climate Action Plan, which is also, they're developing their Climate Action Plan, which is funded by the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. And they're really looking at ways to kind of reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So they basically put out a call to anyone to say, hey, what could you do to help reduce greenhouse gases? And so we talked about this in the Sustainability Commission. The application or the call for projects was pretty simple. It's like, what could you do? So we put in electric trash truck, electric street sweeper, electric police vehicles, and then installing a solar array on top of the Brentwood Recreation Complex. Heck, if you're gonna ask me what we can do, I'm gonna tell you everything we can do and see if we can get any money for it. So the good news is that they've been in contact with us, East-West Gateway. They're basically trying to whittle it down to 5 projects. They didn't really say how many they started with. They really talked to us a lot about the solar array and whether or not we'd be willing to do things like take some of the savings to then use for a rebate program, which we've been discussing, have been talking about here and at the Sustainability Commission. So we said, of course, we'd look into something like that. Since then, they've talked, they continue to reach out and they've said, hey, there might be a little concern that the solar array is kind of all of our funding and that it might not be prudent to spend everything on one thing. And there might be this different program that will be coming out here in a few months, which is a collaboration through multiple states to do specifically municipal solar projects. And which I said, that's wonderful, sounds like a great project. I would hate to lose an opportunity that's right in front of us if it's there. But again, obviously you guys have to make the best choice for you guys. So they're still in conversation about that. And then they did talk about whether the city would be willing to do some sort of match. And I said, well, it would depend on percentage and how much and things like that. And so she said that the grant is due April. She'll come back to me end of this month so then I could bring it back to the board for discussion if that's what they're going to ask. So that's kind of where we're at with that. And then lastly, Dan and I met with the Ameren EV fleet analysis. So we're plugging away on that. They think we should have a report, I think hopefully the end of this month. And then hopefully we can bring that to Sustainability Commission and Public Works in March or April, depending on when we get that report.
Thanks, Eric. Any questions for Eric? Great. All right, let's go into the consent agenda. All we have is the meeting minutes.
Second.
Comments, discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Great. Moving to old business. LOMO, formerly known as NOMO, April.
Hi, weed. Sorry. Uh, Yeah, so, it was provided a good summary of the discussion at the Sustainability Commission, so I did draft an ordinance for you. It just simply states that code enforcement would be suspended for high grass and weeds for the month of April, and left in the parks would look at doing high grass and weed, or allowing high grass in the parks in the non-active areas. So, straightforward.
Yeah, I would just say, Alderman Gould, I really appreciate the research you did, because this is about having conversation and learning about it. And that really kind of triggered, talking to Jean Ponzi at Botan and everything, and, a good evaluation. And I know she's planning to write a blog article about it, which then, so it's and that's why I like this stuff. It starts the conversation and starts us thinking about it. And that's what I really think the importance of this is starting the conversation. Thank you again for that.
Sounds good. I mean, I appreciate you taking the time, taking it back to Sustainability Commission and investigating it with those experts. And I think you're right. It's good for us to not just jump on something, but to research it, make sure it's right, and then evolve the conversation or evolve what needs to be done with it. And I think, a low-mo April is for me, it's kind of what I usually do anyway. Keep it high and let the roots get in. So I don't see any significant issues with relaxing our code enforcement for April. I'm not sure that we need to necessarily produce physical signs and distribute them, but I think through other communication methods, we certainly can get that word out. So thank you for taking it forward.
Nancy?
Oh, I just add, again, thanks to Alderman Gould for doing the research that the rest of us probably should have done, and he actually did it. But the one thing I like about the ordinance is you left it for 1 year, so it seems like,
Yeah.
first I read it and thought, oh, why is it only 1 year? But then I read further down. I'm like, oh yeah, this makes sense, because we read it, and it's a check to look at it again and have the conversation again early next year, so.
Very good.
So I think we're looking
Motion
for,
to
yeah.
forward the recommendation of low-mo April and the changes to the ordinance as written to Board of Aldermen for approval.
I'll second that.
Great. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, moving right along. All right, we'll move in the new business, electric ice resurfacing, Zamboni.
All right, so I have to be careful about saying electric ice resurfacer because Zamboni is a brand name, and they didn't even provide a bid, so we have to stop saying Zamboni.
Point.
We did put in the budget to replace our electric ice resurfacer. We'll be replacing our 2004 propane Olympia, and then moving our 2015 electric Zamboni back into our backup. And so we did put $216,000 in the budget, $43,000 this year, and then $178,000 next year, mainly because what we've been hearing from both Zamboni and Olympia is it's about a 16-month build right now. So what we received were 3 bids, one from CTM, which is the Midwest rep for Olympia, one from Engo Equipment, and then the last from LSK Enterprises. And to be honest, Zamboni and Olympia have kind of owned the market in North America for the past 50 years, 60 years. And then Engo and LSK are really European companies who are trying to get into the market. So LSK actually has a driverless Zamboni or ice resurfacer, which might be really interesting in the future if they can figure it out. But right now with Tesla and everything else, I'd rather stick with drivers. But with that being said, we kind of looked at the two. We looked at CTM and Engo, and we do make the recommendation to go with CTM for a couple reasons. CTM has only met the specifications. We asked for a sealed lead acid battery. Both of our current machines are lead batteries. We actually have to fill them with water. Sealing them would be longer life, and that's and reduce any possible maintenance problems that would cause because of just mistakes. The other two, Engo and LSK, both had lithium-ion batteries, which are not a bad battery, but they can overheat and are sensitive to moisture. And if you've been in ice rink, moisture is a bad thing. And it can lead them to explode in adverse conditions. Now, do we expect that to happen? No, they've been running these machines with lithium-ion batteries for a while, but again, it is a risk that if we don't have to take, we don't really want to. Engo is, like I said, a European company. They've only been in the United States market for the past 2 years. They went into Canada. They've only been there for 4 years, so they're really starting to come over. And because of that, they only have 58 machines in the United States, whereas Olympia has 400 in the Midwest alone. CTM services 400 ice resurfacing machines. And then more than anything else is CTM does have people on staff who, if we are in a pinch, we can call, they can walk us through. There's been times where we sent them a picture of our board and they've walked us through things. But they also have staff who will come in, basically all the rinks in St. Louis set up a PM time for them to come in town. They just go from rink to rink and kind of take a once over your machine. And that is a very nice sort of feature to have, especially when we don't have staff who are dedicated to only ice. And so the other thing is we do have someone, these machines are getting a tad bit complicated and they're more difficult for our mechanics to work on. They prefer the Olympias because it's on a Chevy chassis. I'm not a car person, so it's on that chassis, so it's very similar. So some of the things they can do, the exhaust stuff, things like that, which has become less important as you've gone electric because you don't have those sort of issues anymore. And it's really the technical things that we have issues with that they don't have the experience in. So there is one service technician in St. Louis, just one. He works on both Olympia and Zambonis. We did talk to him, and he said he can't guarantee he can work on the Engo just because he doesn't know the machine. And so we did reach out to the rinks who are using the Engo. They like them. They said, right now they've been good. Some say that they like them enough that they think they're going to buy another one. But the difference is that they haven't had any problems with them yet. And so when we asked them, hey, how's the process been of if anything's happened, how have you gotten it fixed? What do you do? Things like that. And they're like, to be honest, we just haven't had that yet. We're still early into our new machines. They expect, because they do have staff who work solely on ice in their machines, that if they call Engo, they'll be able to kind of walk them through that process. We're a little bit more concerned that our staff won't have those capabilities of being able to do that. So I'm not saying that Engo is a bad machine. It's one of those things where it's not proven quite yet in North America. And it's that question of, do we want to be the guinea pig on our facility that is a very important facility for our department. So that is why we made the recommendation to CTM.
Okay. And it looks like we could get 10,000 from as a trade-in.
Yes.
So the 20,000 difference really isn't as significant.
Correct. Even if we went with Engo, we would then sell it on Gov Deals. Will we get 10,000? We don't think so. Last time, for 10 years ago, we only got $5,000 for at that point, the Zamboni that we sold. So.
Okay, I think we're looking for a motion to do something here.
So I will make a motion to approve the recommendation for CMT services for the Olympia machine at the amount of $198,807 and forward that to the Board of Aldermen.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Great. All right, Destination Playground, Play Planet, Pavilion fee rental.
Yeah, so this is the last thing for the night, hopefully, for me at least. So we've been talking about a lot of, over the past couple of years, about the pavilions and what to do in them. Part of us have been, we keep going back and forth. Like some of us sometimes like we should keep them open. That way parents have a place to sit. And then part of us think people are going to get in there at 7 o'clock, set up for a birthday party at 1, and just make everyone mad anyway. So maybe if we have one that's rentable, we can kind of contain it. And so in that sort of framework is kind of where we landed on it, is we think if we have the ability to contain it, it'd be better for the rest of everyone. So what we're looking to do is looking at the main pavilion, because it is a larger pavilion. It's more centrally located. It'll have more tables. It will also have the water play feature. And also the parents and kids who typically need shade, especially early on, are the younger kids, so they still have that pavilion over by that family play area. So that's kind of why we went with that process. And so we think that would be the best one to rent. We have staff there most of the day. We'll have a park maintenance staff there from 7 to 3. And so we thought if we just do 2 time frames with at least a 2-hour minimum, that would kind of be the best way to go along with it. So with the last caveat of, we also know that parking could be a premium in that new park. And so again, to kind of contain what we're seeing going in and out of the park would probably be beneficial as well. So our recommendation is $50 an hour with a 2-hour minimum for residents, 75 for non-residents, and then really have 2 time frames to rent, a 9 to 1 in the morning and a 2 to 6 in the afternoon. If someone wanted to have a 6-hour birthday party, God bless them and all those kids. But we kind of work on that between the two and figure those things out. So we can be a little bit flexible, but we are basically looking at that. And really where we came in with these prices are a lot of factors. As we looked at what we're currently doing with our pavilions, we looked at what other similar twice pavilions in different municipalities are doing. And then also we looked in the private sector. We looked at what a 2-hour birthday party rental at Bounce U is. And it's basically $100 an hour. 100 to 150 if you get some of those newer places. So obviously we're an outdoor pavilion with, with not all the bells and whistles of some of those other places, but we feel like it's a decent place to host a birthday party. So we thought the 50 and 75 were the right price. So our recommendation is move forward with this. Typically it gets approved here at the Public Works Committee, and then it becomes part of the budget process in future years.
Questions for Eric? I'm going to defer to you guys are experts in park rental stuff. I mean, the logic of why the main pavilion, at first, when I first read it, made me think the smaller pavilion is the one you should almost rent because it doesn't have the water feature and it's a little more off to the side. And but I trust your experience in this a little bit more than mine. So. And the plan is we would open these up because, after April 6th, people will probably want to start renting it right away, right?
Yeah, Sophie is working on a marketing piece. We're actually in a brochure process right now, so that will be going up to print in the next month, and will be out before the dedication. So the idea is kind of have all ready for April 6th. We're not going to do any of that first weekend, but we'll start looking at them after that.
Okay, and then is there a way to rent like the event lawn or anything like that, or is that similar to what you said where you can just kind of post up and just like establish a place and just use that if you wanted to?
Yeah, the event lawn, we do allow rentals as part of the pavilion. And so if you feel like you need that space for a birthday party, we'll push you to a pavilion rental because that kind of is right there too. So we'll have both those spaces available, and we think we're already getting a lot of pavilion rentals, more so than we're hoping for, but we're happy to see the usage of them. We'll think that will increase as we get birthday parties. So we'll have a staff member, he actually wants to rent the pavilion because it's his son's birthdays. Well, they have twins, they're in June. Like, it's gonna be hot. They're only 3. I want a place where they can go cool off too. So we're gonna want to rent the pavilion instead of the outdoor pavilion. So we'll see some of that as well.
Yeah, and the reason I ask that is because, it seems like, because I think it's going to fill up. It's going to be rented like all the time forever. But that is another option where you're right about the sun. But if you had 12 kids going there for a birthday party, you could just spread blanket out in the event lawn and just do it there, right?
You could.
Lots of space.
Yeah, you could.
Okay.
And remind me of how much is it to rent the pavilion?
The main pavilion, it is $400 for residents for 4 hours, 600 for non-residents, 600 for 8 hours, and 750 for non-residents.
Okay, yeah, I mean, so this is, I'm glad you kind of mentioned some of the other rental, birthday party rental around the town, even the private sector. As far as some of our other rooms that we typically see rented for birthday parties, is this more than those?
I mean, really, we don't do a whole lot of birthday parties within the center.
Oh,
What
they
we
don't-
really get is like 1-year-old, 2-year-old, like really small kiddos. And then, so that is kind of in line with those because we're $40 to $60 depending on what room. And then the pavilions, outdoor pavilions are 40 or 60 for the full day.
For the full day, yeah.
Yep.
But that's a little different.
Yeah.
Because those are just standalone that, with nothing else really around them, or,
And you're not going to
Green
be right
space
by
around
this
them.
playground either, yeah.
yeah. Okay,
All right, I think we're looking for a motion to do this.
I'll make a motion to go with the recommendation of the Public Works Committee for the Brentwood Park Destination Playground main pavilion fees effective immediately.
second.
Great, any other comments or discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Great, exciting, we're almost there.
Thank you.
To the playground. Let's see, moving on, so we have citizen comment. All right, seeing no more business aboard the committee, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.